In recent NASCAR history, there have been some high-profile free agency signings that work out for both sides, and eventually they both achieve great success. But sometimes there are some signings that might sound good on paper, but just simply don't translate into success and seem like a mistake down the road. So today, we're going to list the 5 best free agency signings in recent NASCAR history and the 5 worst. Best, Kyle Larson to Hendrick Motorsports in 2021. In 2020, Kyle Larson had been suspended due to a certain incident on a live stream. Both NASCAR legend and 7-time champion Jimmie Johnson retiring at the end of the 2020 season, Larson was one of the favorites to land that ride. And eventually, he was reinstated by NASCAR and was signed to Johnson's rebranded 5 team. In 2021, expectations for Larson were low, but Larson ended up being the dominant force of 2021. As everyone knows, he went on to win 10 races and the championship and had the best season anyone had seen in almost 15 years. Since joining HMS, Larson has won 20 races in 3.5 seasons and has been to 2 championship 4s and won a championship. This deal has definitely worked out for both sides and is probably a generational combo for years to come. Worst, Kurt Busch to Phoenix Racing in 2012. Now, while this was a case of taking the best ride available for Kurt Busch and not really his decision, this combination still did not work out for either side. Busch in this time had a lot of anger management problems, which is the reason why he was dropped from Team Penske after the 2011 season. He would be relegated to Phoenix Racing, which was a mid-pack ride run by James Finch. And this season, while having some notable performances like Sonoma, it was a disaster and only had 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s in 29 races and was sitting 26th in points. This ultimately led to him leaving the team 6 races before the 2012 season ended for Furniture Row Racing, who he would later sign with for 2013. This deal didn't work out for either side, and it showed with Kurt Busch constantly throwing fits over the radio and just not being happy with the team. Best, Joey Logano to Team Penske in 2013. Joey Logano started his career with Joe Gibbs Racing in 2009 and won a rain-shortened race to become the youngest winner in NASCAR history at the age of 19. But he would have to wait 3 more seasons until collecting his second win in 2012 at Pocono. It was clear that Logano was struggling at JGR, only having 2 wins in 4 seasons, and never made the chase. All of this led to the announcement of Logano being booted at the end of 2012 in favor of veteran and champion Matt Kenseth. But Team Penske had a second car, the 22, that had been struggling for its entire lifespan, and its driver, Sam Hornish Jr., would be demoted back to the then Nationwide Series, and Logano would take over the 22 full-time in 2013. In that season, Logano had his best season yet, with 1 win, 11 top 5s, and 19 top 10s, and this was good enough to make the chase and finish 8th in points. This season started what is now one of the most elite partnerships in the Cup Series. Logano has made the chase/playoffs every year except 2017 and has won at least 1 race every season and has been to 5 championship 4s and has won 2 championships. Worst, Kyle Busch to Richard Childress Racing in 2023. Now at first, this seemed like a great partnership, seeing as how in the previous 3 seasons of Busch's career, he only had 4 wins and only got to the round of 8. While in the 3 seasons before that, he had 18 wins and went to the Final Four all 3 years. But in 2022, the thing that everyone talked about was that Mars, or M&M's, was leaving the team, and this left Busch's contract in the air, and both sides eventually decided to part ways. Busch would sign with RCR, who in 2022 was a borderline championship contender with Tyler Reddick. On paper, this seemed like a great combination, and to start, it was. In the first 19 races, Busch had 3 wins, 7 top 5s, and 12 top 10s, and was a firm championship contender. But in the last 17 races, Busch's season just fell apart. He had 0 wins, 3 top 5s, and only 5 top 10s, and was booted out of the playoffs in the round of 12. And so far, in 2024, Busch is having the worst season of his career. He only has 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s in 18 races, and has finished outside the top 20 9 times this season. The team as a whole just seems down in terms of speed, and this, while seeming like a good signing at first, now it just looks terrible. Best, Martin Truex Jr. to Furniture Row Racing and JGR 2014. MTJ was part of Michael Waltrip Racing for 4 seasons before the whole Spingate scandal, which resulted in MWR losing Napa sponsorship and shutting down his 56 team, leaving him without a ride for 2014. But Truex would eventually sign with Furniture Row Racing, a team that in 2013 made the chase with Kurt Busch. But in 2014, the season was nothing short of a disaster. Truex only had 1 top 5 and 5 top 10s with a 20th place average finish and was 24th in points. But in 2015, the team had a sudden turnaround with the arrival of Cole Pearn. Truex was super consistent, and while only winning 1 race, he was consistent enough to go all the way to the Final 4. While not winning the title that season, that laid the foundation for a future contender. In 2016, the team would switch to Toyota and have a JGR alliance, and the team won 4 races and looked like a true contender before blowing a motor and being bumped in the round of 12. But in 2017, he had a simply magical season, winning 8 races, having 19 top 5s and 26 top 10s, and a 9.6 average finish, and eventually winning the championship, completing one of the biggest underdog stories in NASCAR history. Now, while Furniture Row did shut down after 2018, the team was largely absorbed by JGR, and Truex was brought over to the 19, where he races today and is currently racing his final season. Worst, Harrison Burton to Wood Brothers Racing in 2022. This move, to this day, still has people, including myself, scratching their heads. Harrison Burton was signed to the 21 car for the 2022 season, and since then, it has been an absolute disaster. In 2.5 seasons, Burton only has 5 top 10s and has gotten worse every season. This was a terrible decision by the Wood brothers, and I don't put all the blame on Burton. It was clear that he wasn't ready for the Cup Series. He only had 4 wins in the Xfinity Series and only had 2 seasons of experience, and was only 21 years old. So with an underdeveloped driver, this resulted in a struggle. What made this even worse is that they had a solid driver, Matt Benedetto, who had that team in playoff contention for the past 2 seasons. This has to be the worst free agency move of the next-gen era. Best, Kevin Harvick to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2014. Kevin Harvick pre-2014 was already one of the top drivers in the series. He had 23 wins in 13 seasons and competed for championships in 2006, 2010, 2011, and 2013, and was considered elite. But what no one realized is that Kevin Harvick was basically carrying his team, RCR, as he was the only one consistently winning and in championship contention. And with Harvick seeing the way the team was headed, this eventually led to Kevin Harvick leaving RCR at the end of 2013 for Stewart-Haas Racing. And well, in their first season together, Harvick won the whole dang thing, taking home his first championship. This ended up being one of the best partnerships ever. Harvick went on to win 37 races in 11 seasons and had 5 Championship 4 appearances. Worst, Danica Patrick to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2013. This was one of the worst signings and is probably the single worst signing in NASCAR history. Danica Patrick is the biggest bust in NASCAR history. In 190 races with the team, Patrick recorded 0 wins, 0 top 5s, 7 top 10s, 29 DNFs, had 64 laps led, a 24.1 average finish, and only a best points finish of 24th. Just a simply terrible span in which they could have put anybody else in the car. To make this even worse is the fact that the person who replaced her, Eric Almirola, was brought into the car for the 2018 to 2023 seasons, around the same amount of time as Patrick, and he had 2 wins, 19 top 5s, 64 top 10s, only had 21 DNFs, led 971 laps, and had a 16.5 average finish. Best, Kyle Busch to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2008. Kyle Busch, prior to 2008, had been in the Cup Series since 2005. While he wasn't bad by any means, he only had 4 wins, 30 top 5s, 51 top 10s, and 2 chase appearances. Not bad by any means, but it was clear that he was the third wheel at Hendrick. In the 2000s, Hendrick was still a 4-car team, but they had a habit of having 2 good cars, which were normally Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, while also having 2 experimental cars, and Busch was in the experimental car. But in the 2007 season, it was announced that Dale Jr. would leave DEI for Hendrick Motorsports, and Busch would be the odd man out. But on the other side of the garage, Joe Gibbs Racing's 18 car had been struggling since 2004 with Bobby Labonte and JJ Yaley, and Yaley was being released after 2007. So JGR would end up signing Kyle Busch, and in their first season together, Busch won 8 races in the regular season, but ultimately fell apart in the chase and finished 10th. But from 2009 to 2022, the duo went on to win 48 races and 2 championships, and Busch went to a total of 5 Final Fours. Worst, Daniel Suarez to Trackhouse 2021. Now while Suarez has won 2 races, I believe that Trackhouse could have made a much better signing. Suarez in his first 3 seasons had 0 wins despite being with top rides in JGR and SHR, and also never made the playoffs. In 2020, he was relegated to a backmarker team with Gaunt Brothers Racing, but in 2021, Suarez joined a newly formed Trackhouse and had some solid performances here and there, but finished 25th in points. In 2022, the team expanded to a 2-car operation with Ross Chastain being put in the 1 car. And while Suarez was riding between 13th and 20th almost every week, Chastain was contending for wins and eventually contended for the championship. Now while Suarez did pick up a win and made the playoffs, he lucked his way through the round of 16 and was bumped in the round of 12. In 2023, Suarez missed the playoffs altogether and just seemed like a mid-pack driver all year. Now in 2024, while he did get a win early, he is struggling to be inside the top 20 in points, while his teammate Chastain has the 2nd best average finish in the series and is 9th in points. You just simply can't make any more excuses for him, especially because the team was originally built around him, and he is getting outclassed every week by his teammate. Just simply disappointing. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and drop a comment below whether you agree or disagree. Also, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time for another video. Y'all have a good one.